Must be hard to want what you can't have. Happy Thursday, everyone. Nancy Pelosi snapped at a reporter asking her about Biden dropping out, and she said, "Am I speaking English to you?" The last time Nancy snapped like that was when they forgot to properly fasten her face. President Biden turned down Trump's challenge to play golf with the money going to charity. Hunter agreed, saying, "Charity? I thought I already paid her off." The astronauts stuck in space from Starliner problems are confident that Boeing will get them home safely. But when they heard Joe Biden is still in the race, they said, we'll take our chances up here. With Donald Trump set to announce his VP soon, Doug Burgum is rumored to be at the top of the list. Trump likes his governing style and business experience, but also really enjoys his cereal. You'll never unsee that. 3 administrators at Columbia have been permanently removed after posting anti-Semitic texts. But don't worry, they've already been replaced.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, funny but true. 7-Eleven turns 97 today. Also turning 97, 7-Eleven's hot dogs. In Pennsylvania, a professional clown has been charged with offering prostitution services.
Ew.
Cops knew they had the right guy when they found one of his condoms. All right. To the monologue, shall we? Once upon a time, George Clooney held a huge fundraiser for Joe Biden. And if you don't know who was there or where it was, Joe Biden felt the same. He's basically a heartbeat away from being on the receiving end of a seance. But that was so last month. This week, Clooney took a break from making movies you'll never see to write an op-ed for the New York Times. Because, as you know, celebs are brilliant when it comes to politics. But I guess this guy was busy. The title of the piece, I love Joe Biden, but we need a new nominee. Which speaks to the Gutfeld rule of getting dumped. Everything before the word but means nothing. In the op-ed, Clooney starts by saying he considers Biden a friend and believes in him, believes in his morals, believes if you hold a mirror under Joe's nose, it'll fog up in 4 to 6 weeks. But why is it everyone who's about to dump Joe starts with sentimental accolades about what a wonderful man he is? I'm sorry, guys. Would a wonderful man say this?
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. The Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
See, the dementia just peeled away the facade of Empathy Joe. The lie that he was a kind old man seeking unity. Nope, he was always a self-serving prick who won't let go of the wheel even if he drives the car off the cliff. So now Clooney puts the knife into his old buddy, and instead of blood, there was dust. Clooney writes, "The Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big effing deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate." Well, I got news for you, George. Joe wasn't a big effing deal in 2010 unless the F stood for flatulent. And while he may have beaten Medicare and oil cancer, he got his ass kicked by teleprompters, microphones, and gravity. But it's nice of Clooney to, finally speak up. But this is Hollywood once again, where Harvey Weinstein trapped more women on couches than a roof collapse at Raymore and Flanagan's. And yet Hollywood clammed up for decades. Clooney's only speaking up now because he ran it by Obama, who approved. The Biden campaign downplayed the piece, stressing the president stayed at the fundraiser 3 hours longer than Clooney, even though for 2 of those hours, Joe was just lost in the coat room. Of course, we knew for years what Clooney is just saying now, Biden isn't just a vegetable, he's the whole farmer's market.
Oh, God.
But the floodgates have opened. Big shot Hollywood donors distancing themselves from Biden like he's Kevin Spacey at the Boy Scout Jamboree. Rob Reiner says we need someone younger to fight back. Well, that narrows it down to just about everyone on Earth. But it's as if Biden suddenly got too old just a few weeks ago, which shows you how detached these idiots are from real life. If you don't experience crime, inflation, homelessness, or illegals, do you think you're really going to care that your guy is clinically dead? But even Biden backer Michael Douglas is telling the heifers on The View that he's deeply, deeply concerned.
I'm deeply, deeply concerned. I mean, especially it's difficult because the Democrats have a big bench. I mean, they've got a lot of heavy hitters. And I do worry with, like, the debate, the difficulty with the debate. I mean, it was relatively simple. I mean, you just, first of all, they should have just told the president to stand up, put a little makeup on him, you know, for the debate, which didn't help him, and then where to look.
Looks like a Vegas magician. Sorry to break it to you, Mike. No amount of makeup could add moisture to that corpse. You've heard the phrase polishing a turd. With Biden, it's polishing a fossilized turd from the Jurassic era. And there's plenty more where that came from. Ari Emanuel, Reed Hastings, Abigail Disney, Barry Diller. Pretty much everybody who's been with Joe in the last 4 years is suddenly telling the truth about him. Like Chuck Todd, who now says he's known about Biden's condition for years. If only he knew a journalist who could have warned us about it. Instead, the media called us fascists for noticing Joe's The Walking Dead without the walking. And it all only took one bad debate. Well, that and 4,000 verbal gaffes, tripping over sandbags, falling off a bike, somersaulting down flights of stairs, and cutting the cheese in front of the Duchess of Cornwall. Does it matter what Hollywood says about Biden? Not really. But now it's about the donors. So they're abandoning ship like it's the Titanic and Joe's the iceberg, but with a lower body temperature. Remember, these are actors who get paid to say what's written for them. They may play heroes, but when it's time to take a stand in real life, they wait for actual brave people to step forward first. They may get cast as leads in Hollywood, but in real life, they're extras. Let's welcome our guest. He's so religious, he makes Mitt Romney look like a Hell's Angel. Fox contributor Tom Shalhoub. She's the only panelist who's an expert on pulled groins. Former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya. He's a judge and comedian, which means he'll throw the joke book at you. Vincent August. And she's so thin, Girl Scouts sell cat Timpf mints. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Cat Timpf. Tom, before I get to your mundane opinions about life, I'd like to play a clip from that just happened with Joe Biden introducing Zelensky. Roll it.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much.
Tom, so much to choose from here. Isn't it amazing that George Clooney has this fundraiser where he basically, goes through the wallets of all these donors, gets like $30 million, and then waits to now to say it because Obama blessed him?
And he lied after the fundraiser.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about it. I looked at Rob Reiner's feed on X, and he was, a couple of weeks ago, saying there's no finer man than Joe Biden. So we all know that all these people are a bunch of liars. And the amazing thing about it is, it all was because he failed an audition, because they know this whole thing is fake.
Yeah.
They know the presidency is just another acting job, because he's been doing it since he's been in office.
Yes.
So is it hard to be the president? Obviously not. An old man could do it. And they knew he was an old man at the time. Now, it shouldn't be that way, but we know there's a bunch of elites that are running the country, and the president is just a figurehead. And they're proving it as it is now, because he did the one thing. You can be a completely ineffective leader, but as long as you pass the audition, then the Hollywood elites are going to be okay with you.
That is a very smart point, Tom. Michelle, always a delight to see you.
Likewise, Gregory.
I know. It is true, though. That is why they kept Biden behind closed doors all the time. The only issue is, even then, we knew.
Totally.
So either Hollywood was stupid and didn't know, or they're lying. Could they be both?
Oh, absolutely. It can be both. Stupid liars, a bunch of stupid liars. Well, and it's interesting, too, that now that George Clooney has come out with this op-ed, and all these other politicians in D.C. are saying, you know, George really should stay in his lane. He doesn't know politics. He's a movie producer, right? But when George is there to raise money for them, oh, God bless you, George Clooney, we love you. This industry, these politicians who rely so heavily on Hollywood. I'm from Minnesota. I live there now. Al Franken was our senator. He'd invite John Hamm and all these people to Minnesota to help him raise money. That's when Hollywood is appreciated and valued. But suddenly now that Clooney tells the truth, which we've all, as you said, been seeing for years, these other politicians who want to stand by Biden are like, you know, Clooney should stay in his lane. It's complete and utter hypocrisy. But talk about reading lines for a living. That's what Joe Biden's doing now. It's sad.
It is sad. He's reading lines while Hunter snorted him. Vince, what's your take on all this? You could talk about Clooney or Obama. Do you think he's? I hasten it. I predict that Biden will drop out tomorrow, but I don't know.
There's been a celebrity named George that's nailed this for 20 years. Unfortunately, he's dead, but it's George Carlin.
Yeah.
He's been talking about this for 20 years. He's been calling this out, and he said it in special after special. It's an illusion of choice. The elites run everything, the donors run, and we're seeing it play out. So the George we should be listening to isn't Clooney, it's Carlin. And he's called, and I don't want to hear about soul of our democracy anymore.
Yes.
Okay, because in Clooney's op-ed, he actually starts throwing out the names. Here are the replacements, everybody. So you know what? This has nothing to do with democracy. It's got nothing to do with anything but control. And they know who the substitutes are. They're ready to put them up. So you know what? Let's knock off the whole illusion.
Yeah, it's true. No longer, Kat, are they talking about the existential threat of Trump, right?
Well, I think they still are. I think they always kind of are. I am mostly irritated with their, you know, high and mighty attitude. They're so bold and they're so brave to say that Biden appears to be not well. Like, it's the most, we can all see it. We can all see it. And there would have been maybe, and this is a strong maybe, because honestly, probably not, because it was so obvious to people with eyes and ears. But if he could have admitted, like, I didn't say something because of this, or I should have said something earlier. But it's so weird, and he didn't write it, of course, so whoever wrote it for him should have at least made Clooney some kind of acknowledgement of, like, I noticed this, and then he goes into, and it's bad, without acknowledging how much time has passed between the fundraiser and now. Like, I feel like if I turned that essay in the 8th grade, my teacher would be like, there's something missing in the middle.
Right.
So why did anybody push him on that? I want to know why.
Yeah, and he should have known that question would come, and
Right.
the key to writing something is always answer the question you
The
know.
reader's going to have, which that's the editor's job as well, right?
But to show you what the power that celebrities have among Democrats, I mean, actors have been screaming about Donald Trump for years, and it just bounces off them.
Yeah.
You know, one actor writes one thing, and all of a sudden the presidency is crumbling.
Yeah, but
It's unbelievable.
does he have power over actual people or just the candidates? Because we saw De Niro yelling a month ago in front of the courthouse, and people were ignoring him.
Yeah.
So, deranged.
But it's also, are the people going to listen to George Clooney, or is it just the politicians, because that's where the money comes from?
Yeah, the donors. It's
Right.
about the donors.
About the donors.
Yes, all right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.